Hi, I'm Tamer with Blackletter Foundry, and today we're going to learn how to make some crazy fun designs using Blackletter style calligraphy. Calligraphy doesn't just have to be written in straight lines. In fact, there are so many creative ways to use Blackletter calligraphy that I could go on for days about them. In this workshop, we'll be using our calligraphy skills to create an intricate and colorful Blackletter design. This idea involves writing the letters in a circular shape with a variety of decorative elements. The finished art can be a simple ring or can be extended into incredibly detailed and intricate layered designs. Okay, I know, this may look a little bit intimidating, but I promise that you can absolutely do this. And in any spots where you need some additional info, I'll share links to helpful resources. You can also reach out to me directly at blackletterfoundry.com or via social media to ask me any questions anytime. Before we dive into learning how to make these designs, let's go through all of the tools that we'll need. If you want links to every one of these supplies, you can find links to everything in addition to all my other favorite tools at blacklettertools.com. The first tool we're going to use is my favorite broad nib pen, the Pilot Parallel. I love these pens because they come in several sizes, are easy to use, and are compatible with a lot of different inks. I recommend the 2.4 or 3mm sizes for beginners, and I'll be writing with the 3.8mm pen for the design we make today. We're also going to need some ink. I'll be using a dipping technique, so we'll use two different inks. A red Pilot cartridge will be installed in the pen, and we'll be dipping with Dr. P.H. Martin's Iridescent Yellow. As for paper, we'll be writing on 9" by 12" Strathmore smooth Bristol paper. I like this paper because it's sturdy, so it works well for more finished work, and it also handles ink very well without bleeding. To help with drawing guidelines, we'll be using a variety of common tools. The most helpful will be the Helix Circle Ruler, which lets you easily draw tons of different circle sizes. We'll also use a long standard ruler to find the center of the page, and a pencil and clickable eraser for drawing the guidelines and erasing them when we're done. If you'd like to skip drawing your own guides, you can grab a free printable template and a ton of other free stuff by joining my newsletter community at blackletterfreebies.com. To add some fun elements after we write the calligraphy design, we'll use an outline pen, the Pentel Sleechy in this case, and we'll also use 3 Copic markers, the ones with lots of B's and zeros. And last but not least, to stir the acrylic ink periodically, we'll use a sophisticated stirring device, aka a toothpick. And to keep our writing tools clean, we'll have a small container of water, paper towel or tissue, and the parallel pen cleaning slip handy. Okay, now that we know all the tools that we'll be using, let's set up our project so that we can start writing. We'll need to prepare 3 things to get started on this project. Since we're going to be making a Blackletter design, the first thing to know is how to write Blackletter calligraphy. To learn how to write in this style, I've created a free class covering the entire lowercase alphabet on my YouTube channel. Just head to blacklettertv.com and look for the video that should have popped onto the screen by now. The next thing we'll need is to pick something to write. Feel free to be creative with your writing selection. You can use an inspirational quote, a poem, song lyrics, a favorite line from a movie, or absolutely anything you'd like. Just have fun. This stuff doesn't always have to be serious, so feel free to use some humor or anything else you find meaningful. For this workshop, I've decided to write out one of my favorite Superman quotes. You're stronger than you think you are, trust me. I think we could all stand to hear that from time to time, right? If you find it challenging finding things to write, I put together a tutorial to show you how to easily build your own library of quotes and writing prompts, so that you'll never be at a loss when you sit down to write. That's also on my YouTube channel at blacklettertv.com. Now that we figured out what we're going to write, the last step is to work out how large or how small to make the circle guides. There are a couple of ways to do this. You can draw out a few circles and rough out the lettering or make a quick version to work out an appropriate size. You can also go totally overboard like me and come up with a complex approach using spreadsheets and math to work out the size of the circle you need for a given phrase. I'll save an explanation of that approach for another time to hopefully keep from boring you to tears, and just mention that I calculated I would need a circle with around a 6 centimeter radius to letter this quote. Now that we know all the supplies that we're going to use and have finished all our prep work, let's start writing. I'm going to start by finding the center of the page by lining up the corners, just like this. I'm going to line up the ruler with each corner and then draw a line a little bit roughly where I think the center of the page should be. And while I'm doing this here on camera, I'll be drawing a little bit darker than I usually would. When you're following along or doing this on your own projects, I'd recommend drawing the lines as light as possible that you can still see it while still being able to erase it cleanly afterwards. Because remember, we do want to get rid of these guidelines by the end. But for the purpose of the video, so you can see everything clearly, I'll be drawing these lines pretty dark. So now that I've matched the corners of each side of the page, now you can see the center of the page is where the two lines intersect. That's the easiest way that I found to find the middle. Let's draw out our circles now. When I first came up with an estimate for the size of the circle, I ended up figuring that I would need about 6 centimeters for the radius, but just to be safe, I'm going to make it 6.5, just to have a little bit of extra space and to make sure that I can fit the quote. So I'm going to use an X height of 2 centimeters for the 3.8 millimeter pen, so I'm going to measure out from 6.5 to 8.5 centimeters. And then I'm going to leave about a 0.5 centimeter on either side, and another 0.5 centimeter again on the inside and outside, just to add maybe a fun border around the circle that I draw. I'm now going to grab my helix circle ruler and lining the circle in the middle up with the center of the page that I found before. I'm going to line up these holes on the right here and start to draw the circles that I'm going to use for my design. Looks like this one lines up pretty well. And again, just to reiterate, I'm drawing these darker than I usually would. Looks like this one. These two lines are now forming the X height of the lettering that I'm going to make. It's like maybe here. And the last 2 rings for that outer circle. Looks like maybe it lines up here pretty well. And we'll get this guy. And there we go. Now we've got our circle design. I'm not going to use the ruler to draw these radial lines, and basically what these are lines that run through the circles and intersect with the center of the circles. And these lines just really help to give me guides to line up the letters as I'm writing. Going to draw 2 horizontally and then 2 vertically, again depending on how you're looking at the circle, so that we end up with 4 quadrants for it. And then you can divide this into however many you want. I may usually divide it into 2 or 3 additional segments, but we'll add 4 more quadrants for my friends who like math. So we'll just pull 3 more segments, and these don't have to be equal or equidistant or anything like that. We're just using them as guidelines, so you don't have to measure them out that carefully. I'm just approximating them, just trying to make them kind of even. And there, and we'll draw 2 more. Again, always just intersecting. Let's space that a little bit more. Always just intersecting with that center point. And we'll split this last one out into 1 more. Alright, now we can start lettering. I'm going to grab my little container with gold ink, and we'll grab the Pilot Parallel and get started. I'm going to start in the bottom left corner of the page. So if I look at the page like this, I'm going to start the lettering around here. Just a place that I like to start them. I think it kind of gives it a pleasing look if there's a little bit of extra space or something like that. But feel free to start wherever you're comfortable with. And you can see I was using this pen a little bit earlier, so let's give it a quick clean to start. We'll just dip it in a little jar of water. And then I'll use a paper towel to wipe the sides to get some of that excess ink off. And to clean it even more thoroughly, I'm going to use this little slip that comes with the parallel pens and just run it through those two tines just to grab a little bit. If you can see here, there's a little bit of that gold ink, meaning there was a little bit there between the plates. So, all right, so let's get started with the lettering. So I'll go in and grab just a little dab of the gold, and we'll start with our Y, maybe right around here. I won't make it too huge. We'll just make it a little bit bigger maybe than the other characters, just to kind of show that's our starting point. So here is the beginning of the Y. And we're going to take this line and extend it down here pretty far. All right, and now for the O. And after you clean your pen, you may notice that the ink is a little bit diluted. It's just because a little bit of water got in there, but it's okay. The ink in the cartridge will quickly come back in and overtake any of the water that may still be in the tip. There we go, it's starting to get a little bit darker. Okay, let's grab a little bit more of that gold. That's super, super shiny. And we're going to do our first E here. E is one of those letters that I really do like to play around with. Yeah, now we can see more of that red is coming back. So for this, let's do a really tall E. Let's grab the top of that E all the way from up here, because I may use that later on. So we'll go all the way down, make it really, really fun and exciting. Okay, maybe I'll even start off the M next for much right here. All right, and hey, maybe now I even go back and grab a little bit more of the gold. I like how those transitions happen. So here's for the U now. We've still got a bunch of gold in the pen. Let's get that C. And remember, if you need an introduction on how to write any of these letters, you can stop by my YouTube channel at blacklettertv.com and watch the learning Blackletter video that I put together, where I walk through a very simple alphabet that's very similar to the one that I'm using here. I'm going to write the H now, so let's grab a really tall, let's do another tall letter for the H over that second borderline. Just like so. Grab a little more gold for the S. You know what, maybe let's give this S a little bit of a descender. There you go. That'll make it even more exciting to play with later. come up like that. I'm going to let a little bit of the red try to come out with the T now. Let's get that T from up here. Draw that straight line down. And then the R. Now let's definitely grab a bit more of that gold. Just like so, and I'm just giving the letters a little bit of a tilt, or a little bit of a squeeze as I move further down, just to make sure they're kind of following these radial lines that I drew earlier. And just so that they fit inside the circle. Now for the N, I'm definitely going to go back for some more gold for the G. There we go. And we'll carry that one further down as well. Now I've got another E, so I'm going to try to keep it consistent to what I did before. So if you're following the video on YouTube, that was stroke 1, that was stroke 2. I'll do the R and I'll go in for a little bit more of the gold. And just keep working our way around. Let's get even more gold. And another tall H. Now for the A. And the N. You know what? I feel like I need more gold again. Let's go grab a little bit more. There we go, look at that cool color blend. Now for the Y. So again, I'm gonna come further down for that Y, all the way under that inner border, or inner loop. Yeah, let's grab a little bit more gold. So much fun when that initial bit of ink comes out after dipping. It's so saturated and bright. Now for the U. Now we're going to write the word think. So grab some more of that gold ink and come way up here again with the T. This is stroke 1. And then another stroke 1 for the H, all the way from the top here, connecting at the bottom. And then a stroke 3, and then a 2. And then a 1. Feels like we're doing aerobics or something, right? Or maybe music. 1 and a 2 and a 3. Now I'm going to do the I. And I crack myself up while I'm looking. There's the I. And here's the N. Again, I'm just slowly working my way around, and again, just focusing on making the top just a little bit wider than the bottom of each letter. Next is a K. It's a really fun letter to write. So let's go all the way up here again. Now I'm trying to be relatively consistent with my other letters that have ascenders. Couldn't even think of the word there. Go a little tight, little notch there, and then coming down. Now we're going to do another Y. I'm going to let a little bit more of that red ink flow through. I feel like maybe it's getting a little bit clogged with the gold. So we'll just let a little bit more of that red ink come out. Again, this line's going to go all the way down, just like that. And then we'll get an O. Get all that juicy golden ink coming down, flowing onto the page. So much fun. Let's get a little bit more red going here. And we'll get the U started. I'm going to go back for a little bit of gold ink mid-letter again. I'm sure I've done that already once or twice before. There we go. Just love that gold flowing onto the page. So we need an A next. We'll draw that A. So got all sorts of gold in that A. That is a very, very golden A. You definitely need to get some of that red back now. Then you think you are. And it looks like we made it with plenty of room to spare, I believe. And again, I'm just going to keep writing until I get more of that red back on the page. Again, we'll start just like we did for the other E's. We'll start up high. Now look at, we get a lot of red back, and you think you are. Now I just have to get in the words, trust me. And it looks like there's plenty of space here. We'll start up here. We'll get a red T this time. We've had a lot of gold lately. So there's the T. And the R. And at this point I'm being cognizant of my palm starting to rest on my other letters. So at this point I may employ what I call the pinky technique, where I prop my hand up on my pinky. It doesn't make for the most solid writing, so I would honestly just recommend that you maybe wait and let the ink dry a little bit and dab it to make sure it's dry. But for the purpose of the workshop, I'm just going to keep going and we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll end up with some smudges, but we'll work them into the design somehow if it happens. So you'll have to forgive me if these letters maybe aren't as clean. We'll see. There's the U. Now we'll add the S. We'll do similar. Yeah, let's do what I did before. I think it's going to work out great. Let's give the S a bit of a descender. What do you think of that? Look at that, all the way down. And then we'll have some fun. There we go. And we'll do the T again. Again, using my patent pending pinky technique for calligraphy. And hey, you know what? Looks like this may have been just about the right fit. So let's draw the M. And since I know I'm pretty close here, I may just tweak the letters, make them just a little bit thicker. Or a little bit wider, I should say. Just to kind of help me fill in the space. Not overly so, to where they look weird, but just giving them a little bit more room to breathe maybe than some of the earlier letters. And let's give that E a good dash of gold right there. I'm just being careful that I'm trying my best not to smudge. No promises. Now we can go a little bit more nuts with the E. Maybe even give it kind of a flare like that at the end. And we can pull this. Maybe we can even curve this one just a little bit. Again, I'm not going too far from what I've done before, but just, again, trying to fill in that space just a little bit. And there's a small gap here at the end, but there are a few ways that I can fill that in for sure. Maybe by giving the Y a little bit more of a flourish there for the capital, even adding something else to the E like that. Let's just go ahead and do it now. I'm gonna grab, since I had very solid amount of gold on that Y at the top. Let's just grab from here. Let's use that as a little handle. And maybe grab a little bit of a flourish here, like so. And then for the E, I can consistently apply this effect and just draw a straight line here. We'll do it for this E. I've already filled in the space. So let's just go ahead and do that for the other E's now too. There's one there. And this will just keep everything nice and consistent. Let's give that a little tail there. Then you think you are one more E here. There we go. Now they all should look relatively consistent. With that, we've got our cool metallic foundation for this lettering piece. Now let's finish up the lettering design by adding some flourishes to the descenders and crossing the T's and dotting any I's that we have. Let's start with the Y and work our way around. I'm going to do a quick dip in the gold ink, and then I will start adding the flourish and finishing the descender lines. So let's curve this first one inward, like so. And then we'll play with the flourishing line. And I'm going to go ahead and add a page under my hand just to help with smudging and things like that. And we'll keep this flourish going in this direction and maybe even curve it back around here. Now I've got a nice bold flourish there. Now we'll add the flourish to the S. I'm going to curve this one outward because I want to send the flourish more inwards. So let's do it this way. And then we'll maybe keep that one simple. Okay, for the G, I'm gonna send the flourish outwards again. Towards the outside of the word. So I'm gonna curve this one in this direction again. Just like we did with that Y. Then come back around. Maybe this one just terminates in a curve like that. And I think I'll keep with the trend. And again, send this one out to the right. And just to do something a little different, maybe we'll just curve this one back around like so. And pull a line in like that. Now I'm going to apply my snazzy pinky technique again, and we'll just keep the flourishes, in this case, doing a similar move. So we'll curve this one out like so, and then pull it in. Maybe this one's even a little bit more shallow, and then curves up in a bigger way, and then comes back this way. So each one's just a little bit different. Okay, and now we'll finish off the S. And since I have a little bit more room on the left than I do the right, maybe for the S I'll curve the flourish to the left. So let's start with an outward curve for this S. And connect it at the bottom, and then we'll draw this outward line coming up in this direction maybe. And there we go. We've got a bunch of cool little flourishes on the interior of our design. Now I'm going to look for my T's and try to add some cool flourish style strokes to cross the T's. Let's grab a teeny bit, a little bit more gold. And we'll start maybe a nice, since we got some room here, we'll do a nice curvy T here. Maybe curve it up like that. And since I got a big blob of ink here, I'm just going to spread it out a little bit more so that it's not as thick in that one spot. I have a little bit less room on this T, so maybe we'll keep this one a little bit more constrained. So I'll just start a little bit closer to the middle of that outer ring, and then we'll loop it up, maybe even connect with the H there. And then similar to the other T, maybe just add a little curve at the far left. Okay, I'm going to get rid of my other sheet of paper now, just because I feel like I will probably do more smudging than anything else. Now for this T, and this is a good example, I notice I've got a little dot of ink there on the page, so what I'm going to try to do is just incorporate that into the crossbar of the T here. So maybe we'll start with a tall flourish and overrun that little dot, and then come down here and let's connect with the H. And similar to before, maybe I'll pull that line out a little further. That's okay. And then these two T's are pretty tight. At least this first one is with the E. So maybe for this one I just do a very simple line like that, and maybe you just give it a small curve and just clean it up. Again, since I'm working with mostly wet ink here, I'm being a little bit more careful. Like so. And then with this other T now I've got a little bit more room to add a fancier flourish. So let's start a little bit lower than we did on the most recent one that had a large flourish, and we'll start around there. Touch the top, and maybe this one doesn't even have to connect. We'll just leave it like that. Okay, and with that we've got a very interestingly flourished circle. At this point in the process, I would usually let the ink dry on the page before adding outlines. That way I don't have to worry so much about it smudging while I draw those fine lines on the page. We're now going to come in and add the outlines. And since we're using a Superman quote, I went ahead and picked a blue pen to use with this. The Pentel Slicky or Sleechy blue ink pen. This one's really cool because it's got a metallic ink and should be really fun when we draw these outlines. There's really no magical place to start with this. Usually I'll start kind of at the beginning of the quote, and we'll start to draw these outlines. This is the slow and detailed process. But for these I do leave a space between the outline that I'm drawing and the letter itself. And I'll just take my time making these, no rush. And I'll just work my way around the letters, again, just leaving a little bit of space. This is honestly the most time-consuming part of the process, but I really love doing it. I think it adds a really cool effect to the design and makes the final piece look really interesting with all of these tiny granular details. And I'll use a variety of different pens for these outlines. Most often I'll use Pigma Micron pens, but again, since we're going with a Superman quote and some Superman colors, I thought it would be cool to use this metallic blue. This metallic blue is also a little bit lighter in shade than some of the other fine pens that I have. And again, I'm just working my way around every one of the letters, just being slow and careful. I really do enjoy this part of the process just because you can kind of just take it easy and relax. And enjoy the slow, careful process of filling in these gaps. And it's okay here if everything's not 100% perfect. I don't think when you do something by hand like this, it's ever 100% perfect. And as you keep making these, you'll start to build your own technique for how you approach them. And how you enjoy filling in the distance or the spaces between the letters. And if you make mistakes here and there, it happens to me all the time, don't worry too much about it. Now I'm going to draw the border lines around the circles that are on the inside and outside of our lettering circle. And again, I'm just using the guidelines that we drew before to help me draw these lines. Just being slow and careful, trying to keep the lines clean. And there we go. We've now finished the inner and outer rings. To finish off this piece, I'm going to grab my Copic sketch markers and just start adding some blue highlights here and there around the rings and inside the characters. Nothing too severe so as to overpower the lettering, but just to add a little bit of color to the design. And I'm just going to add a very light blue. And I'm just going to fill in the spaces for now using the brush end of the pen. And then I'll use my blender afterwards to blend in some of the colors. I like the brush tip of the pen just because it lets me fill in larger and smaller segments just by applying more or less pressure. So I'm just going to go around the outer part of the ring first, just like so. And I think varying the amount of pressure while you work even gives it a little bit more of a unique, dynamic look. So just slowly again work our way around with this light blue. So I'm just going to fill in the inner edge. Next. And this will kind of give it a fun bit of glowing in the center of the circle. Working with this brush tip is a lot of fun. And it's okay if some of the areas get a little bit more filled in than the others. And if you want, if you have any lighter colors, you can even add one more just quick layer of a lighter color just to fill in just a little bit. And you don't even have to cover the whole section. Just give it a little bit more variation. As you can see, while I'm working around with this very, very light, almost transparent blue, I'm just dabbing and moving quickly so that there's a little bit of variation in the middle. It's almost hard to tell where you start and end. I think that's pretty close to where I started. And then I'll grab my blender brush and just do some tiny little circles here and there just to try to blend in the colors just a little bit more. And this blending just helps to soften up that center part of the circle just a little bit, just so that the lines aren't as firm and harsh. I'm now going to do the same with the outer circle. And there we go. At this point, I would go through and erase the pencil lines as best as possible. So I'll start by using my big eraser to remove the center lines. There we go. Now that's gone. And we could even keep using the big eraser just to get rid of some of these big areas, but I'll instead come in with a smaller eraser. This erasing work can also get pretty detailed, which is why I like to use this click eraser. It lets me get into those fine details even easier than it would be with a large block eraser. And there you have it. We have a fun Superman themed quote in a cool geometric circle using red and gold ink and blue accents and highlights. That was fun, right? Check out the amazing art that we created together. If you had fun making this design and want even more detailed step-by-step instructions with a ton of guideline templates that you can print or use with apps like Procreate, check out the Circles on Steroids product in my shop at blacklettershop.com. Also, if you want a bunch of other freebies and helpful resources, just join my newsletter community where I share lots of tips, resources, deals, and other news. You can sign up at blackletterfreebies.com. Thank you so much for blacklettering with me and have an absolutely fantastic day.